Welcome to the Evolvepreneur podcast channel, which is sponsored by Evolvepreneur.biz, a new online community-based platform designed to help develop your skills and knowledge to be massively successful in this new digital age. Your host today is John North, who is a 3-time #1 international best-selling author and strategic marketer. John's passion is to help business owners to master the online marketing world.
Welcome to Evolvepreneur podcast channel. Today's special guest is Steve Bivans, who's a fearless life and self-publishing coach, author of 2 books, Be a Hobbit, Save the Earth, and the it's actually #1 Amazon bestseller, The End of Fear Itself. He has a master's degree in medieval history, is an expert on Viking Warfare and Culture, Tolkien's Middle Earth, the roasting of barbecue of meats, throwing kick-ass parties and disrupting the status quo. Okay, that's probably the most bizarre bio I've ever read. Thanks for coming on for Steve.
You should read the long version.
Oh, okay.
That's the short version, the dance version.
That's the dance version.
We have the disco extended long play version, which is even more interesting.
Right.
Trust me, if there's something you could do, I've probably done it.
How'd it go?
At some point or another.
All right, so tell me how you got to where you are now, I guess. That's probably a good place to start, although I'm scared now to ask the question.
Right. Well, I won't give the whole life story. We don't have that long. But it was really about 3 years ago, I was, in between projects, jobs, in other words, under it or next to unemployed. And trying to figure out, okay, what I'm going to do, and I was really struggling with the state of the world, and with all its issues and problems, and I was like, these are all human problems, and if humans can make them, then humans can solve them. I mean, to argue otherwise is illogical. Yes. And so I was like, I'm pretty smart. I'm not that, I'm not the smartest dude on the planet or anything, but I know a lot of smart people, so why not attempt it, right? And so out of that came my first book, which at one point I realized I needed an audience, someone who might actually read it. And so I'm a huge Tolkien fan, so I landed on Tolkien's world, and I basically, in short, in a nutshell, took his world, Middle Earth, and used as a lens by which to examine our own. And there were a lot of interesting parallels. So during that process of trying to figure out what are the root causes of all these problems, and towards the end of the process of writing a very long book, 560 pages, I think it is.
It's not quite as big as Lord of the Rings, but you got there, right?
Right, it's big enough. You could crush, small children with it, probably. Not that I'm, advocating for that, but during the end of that process, I landed on the topic of fear as one of the key issues and root problems of all of the other ones. And when I did, I was like, this is kind of a big deal, but I don't really have any more room to talk about it. And I'm ready to be done with this book. So I squeezed it into a chapter near the beginning of the book, and left it there. And then last spring, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who actually ended up writing the preface for the new book. And we landed on the topic of fear in a conversation online, and that led me to remember. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of tabled that, and maybe I should get. And I was trying to find a topic for the next book at the time, and I was like, hey, that might be a good one. And then one night I woke up in the middle of the night with the title in my head, The End of Fear Itself, and then I just went off to the races on it, and published it last month in December on the 11th,
And
And
it's still
it
selling
is
pretty well on Amazon at the moment. Yeah.
it is doing well. It until really a few days ago it was number one, two, and two in like three different categories, and doing quite well. And it's still like two and three or something, I think, as of today. I'm trying to get it right back up to number one again, of course. But yeah, it's doing well. Much better than my first book. One of the things I've learned in the last year is how to actually sell books. I'm pretty good at writing them. Selling them was another, selling anything for that matter is not a skill I really excelled at. So I'm learning it and trying now to pass that on to some other authors who are out there struggling to do the same thing.
Gotcha. And so give us the, I guess the catch cry of what you do in terms of fear. Is it, give me a couple of maybe two or three things in the book that you talk about that the listeners might be interested in knowing.
Yeah, I mean, really my central, if I had to, sum it all up in a very short sentence, is that fear is really the only problem.
Right.
all other problems are essentially symptoms of one, and that being fear, and that we can actually do something about it.
Right.
It is within our power to actually do something about fear, but we have to do that. We have to do that internally.
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, making any decisions.
So the majority of the book is really focused. I'm sorry.
You're right. I was going to say the biggest thing is if you're making decisions on fear, then you're not making really good decisions, are you?
No, definitely not. And there's an aspect of fear, or kind of our instinctual lizard brain fear, that actually helps to preserve us in situations of potential danger, right?
For sure.
But it's all of these kind of what I call projected fears that that we've developed that we think are real, and in a sense they are, because we think they are, but they're not. I mean, what they do is essentially make it impossible for our instinctual fear to protect us, because we're so busy worrying about stuff that isn't actually that dangerous that we're not even paying attention to our instincts anymore. And and that is a really bad place to be. And you make really stupid decisions and in that mindset, and puts you in.
I guess with fear though, you really most people only got two options when you're in fear mode: is either run away or defend yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not really going to get very far. They're not very productive, right?
Exactly. In most situations that we're in the modern world, right? Running away or picking up a stick and bashing something isn't really going to accomplish what we want to accomplish in that situation. At work, it's not appropriate, right, to bash someone with a stick, even though they may deserve it.
Maybe. Exactly right. Well, you can bash them with your book, right?
Right.
Book.
Well, the first book, yes, certainly. The second was a little leaner and meaner. It's good for swatting flies, maybe, but not crushing your boss.
Full-out warfare,
right? Right. So yeah, fear is a destructive. That kind of fear, anything beyond what I say keeps you from like French kissing a cobra, is anything beyond that is not really helpful. It's destructive. It prevents you from thinking straight, following your dreams, actually acting on what you want to do. Forget about should do. And it blocks us from success. It's blocked me. It's blocked everyone I know practically. And I would say there's a lot of so-called successful people out there who made a lot of money who are blocked in something else, right? I mean, in their personal lives or whatever. And all that is fear-based. Every time I look at a problem, I can easily trace it back to fear. And I haven't been able, no one's presented anything to me so far that I haven't been able to do so in a few seconds, really. I mean, it's like, and there have been a couple times where I'm like, oh yeah, and I can't even remember what it was now, but yeah, that's interesting. And then I'm, 10 seconds later, I'm like, but, and you can easily dig down and you get, well, it's really based on this, which is a fear, essentially, a worry, a fear, whatever word you want to use. It's really fear.
So in the book I see you've got 5 myths about the world's problems. What are they about?
Yeah, one is that the biggest one is that the world, there are too many problems, okay, and that they're too complicated. And it certainly looks that way, right? I mean, if you look out, if you watch the news, which I don't anymore, I don't really need to. I don't really need to. I can see enough on Facebook to know that there's nothing really new about it. It's old.
That's enough to scare you in itself, right?
Right. It's not new, right? It's like they should call it olds. It's really just new details or new people involved, but it's really the same old crap. And it looks really complicated, but underneath all of those problems is really only one problem, and that is personal fears that become like group fears, and they pile on top of each other, and then all of a sudden you have war and greed and poverty and all kinds of suffering and violence and all the other problems we have. They're all based on fear, and I go through in the book explain why I think that is. And then one of the other ones is that fear itself is too complicated. And, of course, clinical psychologists, and I'm sure one of them will try to hang me for this, but have spent 100 years or more, cataloging all of these phobias and fears, right? To what end, right? I mean, they've made it more complicated by trying to put a label on every manifestation of fear, right? To the point where you've got probably huge catalogs of different ones, and it's like, well, what good does that do you? I mean, it doesn't really explain it. So what I tried to do in the book was what I call unexplaining fear, and I took that from the philosopher Alan Watts, who basically argued that it's only when we try to explain things in words that it becomes complicated. He's like, the universe does all of the stuff it does without an explanation, right? It just happens, right? We just happen, right? I mean, we breathe, we do stuff all the time that we never think about or explain.
No.
It's only when we try to explain it that it gets really complicated. So,
well, breathing in itself can be quite complicated, but everybody's got to do it, right?
Right, but we do it naturally without even thinking about it. We don't need an explanation, actually. You only need an explanation when it doesn't work anymore. Right? True. It's like, why is it not working?
It's a short-term problem.
Right. Yeah, if you don't come up with an answer to that question really quick. So, yeah, it's about trying to simplify the topic of fear, because actually when it comes down to it, it's not all that complicated. Because at the base... And I use in the book, I use a metaphor of a tree, what I call a tree of fear, because it helps to kind of give some structure to how it works, I think. I did a pretty good job with it anyway. And then there's a seed of that tree. And that one is, I'll give it for free to everyone listening.
Okay, cool.
You can read the book though, hopefully. Is what I call the fear of inadequacy, and every other fear flows out of that, because it is our own belief or fear that we're not good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, skinny enough, knowledgeable enough, whatever enough, fill in the blanks ad nauseum, right? It is that is really the cause of the whole problem, the whole tree of fear. All the other fears stem from that. Because, I mean, and I use this analogy. If, if you or I, we're ordinary guys, I'm assuming, who knows, you might be, kung fu master or something. I don't know. But, right. If we were, walking down a dark alley at night, and then all of a sudden around this corner comes this huge shadowy figure, our lizard brain fear would kick in. And probably all of our other ones would kick in too. The fear that I'm going to get my ass kicked, right? Or this is a mugger, he's whatever, father raper, who knows? But if we were Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, we probably think, whatever, right? For a second, you might go, "What's that?" Whatever, right? Because you're Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, and you can kick the guy's ass, right? Or you feel pretty confident you can. And but if you took Chuck Norris and stuck him on an opera stage and told him to sing, right?
He could be in trouble.
Yeah, he might pee himself, right? I mean, Chuck Norris is badass, but can he sing opera? Probably not. I mean, maybe he can. If he can, then
the
he
jokes
really
go around. Maybe he can do anything he likes, right?
He'll probably next week. Hopefully, he'll hear this, Chuck. If you do, if you can sing opera, we want to hear it, because then we will just stop talking about you, probably, because it would ruin all the jokes if he can do that too. I mean, it was
exactly
right. But most of us feel, these limitations in some area or another, right? And they're deep, and we learned them. Now, that doesn't mean everyone can necessarily sing opera. It takes training,
Sure.
It probably a little talent. To be the world's best, it would take talent and a lot of work. But anyone can learn to kind of sing a tune, I think, and and be taught to do so. But we've learned that we're not good enough, and mostly we learn it from our parents, right? And then everyone else, and our entire society. And when I say that, I mean all of civilization now, East and West, is based on consumerist capitalism, right? Where you're not, the entire message is you aren't good enough unless you buy this.
Yes.
I mean, that's all of advertising. It's Freudian, and Freud helped to invent the advertising industry. It's all based on that. And so if we can pull that seed of that tree out, the whole tree starts to collapse.
So how do you change that? How do you change the perception of fear then? If it's a global mission you've got to do, what's the clear message that people need to do? Is it something they need to be aware of and make adjustments? Be aware of what they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is like, I could say that fear is kind of like this, subtopic that no one's talking about, but it's not true, right? I mean, everyone talks about fear. It's not even the elephant in the room. It's the elephant in the room stomping us in the dust, and we know it's there, but we don't know exactly how it works. Most of us don't think about it. And I didn't either until I started thinking about it to write this book and reading what other people had to say about it and giving it some real thought. So it's not a topic that no one knows about, but in order to end fear itself, and when I say itself, the itself isn't just thrown in there because Roosevelt used it. It was originally, but then I discovered no, it actually means something. It is fear as a noun,
right? As
a thing, like this. It has manifested itself in our minds as something that exists almost like, a rock, or the chair we sit on. And we take ownership of our fears. Like, I have a fear of, right? It's like, really? Show it to me, right? Where is it, right? Take a photo of it, right? They can't do it because it's not a thing, right? It's a think. We think it, ergo it is. And so drawing attention to it is one thing that I hope the book does, is for people, is to say, look, this is what's going on in your head and everyone else's. This is not a niche book. It's a book that literally it's a book about a topic that affects every single living person and probably every living crawling thing with a brain. Though they don't read English, lizards, as far as I know. So
who knows? Yeah,
it's a very, it's a topic that we have to pay attention to it when it starts to affect us. That's one of the first things. It's almost like a meditation. It's like when it creeps up. Usually it creeps up and takes us over, and we're doing stupid things, saying stupid things, and we're all pissed off or whatever. And then, that spirals out eventually. And then, you're like, oh, I totally got carried away with some fear there. And what was that? It's like a post-mortem thing. And so that's kind of how you start, just realizing that fear has a hold in the mind. And then there are a lot of different tricks of the trade from different psychologists and coaches and therapists out there that have some really great ideas that I've run across. And in a sense, I pulled them all together. Some of them I modified, blended them together. Some of those coaches would probably roll over. Well, they're not dead, so they won't roll over in their grave, but they might bash me over the head with my own book. But they're techniques that really work, and they're not super complex things. They're things that people can literally do their own. I mean, it helps obviously to have a coach to guide you through it, but there are techniques that literally people can do themselves, and it takes a lot of work. It's not easy. It's maybe simple.
Particularly, I expect some people that have got a deep-rooted kind of in that fear. If they're really, like you said, with the parents or something like that, if they're deeply rooted, I mean, that's something that's going to take a lot of working through.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe the average person, not
the deeper it is, the more work. Yep. So that is in essence what the end of fear itself, is about. It's a pretty big nutshell there, but at the root of it is that fear. There are all of his other fears that we know about, and I don't try to catalog every single fear. The book would be 10 times as big as the first one. And I actually mentioned that. I was like, this is not, I'm keeping this short because it doesn't help you to like catalog all those fears. It's not necessary. Now the main ones that we all fear, like failure and criticism and success even, I mentioned those, those kinds of the most common ones that most people deal with and that block us from achieving what we want to achieve. I do talk about those.
And I think the thing is, a lot of times that those kind of fears manifest themselves in subtle ways, like maybe you need to finish writing some emails to put out into a campaign or something like that, and you're not writing those emails. And the reality is that you're writing them out of fear because you fear that you might actually could succeed, or you fear it's going to fail, so you're putting it off.
Absolutely.
The reality is that it could be it could be that one email that you send that turns your income around or changes your life.
Absolutely. And one of the first techniques in the last part of the book, which is all about trying to, I call it the chapter is entitled "You're a Lumberjack and You're Okay," and it's I call it my shoveling down question, and it's simply, what right now, what are you not doing that you either should do, want to do, that would enable you to succeed in life, right? In whatever area, doesn't matter, whether that's business or work or health or, relationships or whatever. We all know there's, like you just said, like writing those emails, right? I mean, it could be something that simple. It could be much bigger, like starting a business or whatever. What are you not doing that you really know you want to do or should do in order to succeed? And write that down. And then, why aren't you? Right? And that's a hard question. It stares you in the face. It's like looking yourself in the mirror and you gotta go, oh, why am I not doing this? And really think for a minute. It's always a fear, right? There's always some kind of fear. And it could be something mild, like just some, what if I reword it wrong, the email, right? What if I piss someone off and they don't like me, right? It's because I'm not good enough. And the answers to that question almost always have some form of not good enough in them. Like, well, I'm not ready. Why aren't you ready? Well, I don't know enough, right?
Yeah.
I'm not knowledgeable enough. I'm not trained enough. I don't know everything I need to know in order to do it, right? And that's fear. And fear of failure. Yeah.
I remember something with Tony Robbins I once saw that was in one of his first books, I think he wrote, and he said, change shoulds to musts. And like, just because you say you should be doing something doesn't mean you're going to do it. But if you change the word to must, then it's a whole different ball game then.
Yeah, but you have to believe that, right? You have to believe that you must do it, and there, and sometimes that you must, right? And you avoid it. I mean, there's probably some things that I'm still avoiding right now that I must do. So, and I tell people in the book, like, I'm leading you through this forest of fear.
Yep.
Doesn't mean I've been to the other side, right?
Exactly.
It's like I think I know how to pick a path through here, but I have a machete in my hand, right? I'm holding a machete because we might have to cut our way through. I mean, it's something everyone has to face. I mean, and a lot of the reason for writing the book in the first place was my own personal deal. It's like I realized, okay, I've got lots of fears that I need to face and deal with, and then through the process of writing the book, many of them I have begun to really hack away at.
Well, yeah, maybe
there's still
someone's
something
got
to
a
work
big fear. They write a book about it, and then they'll solve the problem, right? Because they have to actually prove to other people they can solve the problem. So if you
right.
write about writing a book, maybe you should write a book about why you shouldn't write a book.
Right, exactly. So well, writing. This is a good segue into what I'm doing now, and that is my College of Fearless Self-Publishing mastermind group that I really just launched in the last couple of weeks, and it's come out of a series of articles I wrote this last year. Some of them are parts of the book, chapters of the book. Some of them not, but a series of articles that I called "How I Write," and just looking at my own method for writing, and a lot of that was facing fears of criticism and the blank page. Oh my God, what do I write? What if it sucks, right? and so there's all of that, and then eventually figuring out, okay, how do you actually sell a book, right? I mean, I didn't really have a knowledge of sales very much, and I've learned that over the past few months, really. towards the end of finishing the book, and they're are tried and true tricks based. No, I don't want to call them tricks. I mean, it's not like magic; it's work, but of really launching a book and getting it to number one in its categories in Amazon. It doesn't mean number one New York Times bestseller. That'd be awesome, but
Yes.
Yeah, right. But it's still a success that most people don't achieve, and myself included. I have one book that's been out for 2 years, and maybe it sells 4 or 5 copies in a month, right? And I'm probably going to relaunch it so I can actually sell more copies of it. But now trying to teach other people, about writing and how to, and intertwined in that is facing fear, because no matter what you do, whether it's writing or podcasts or digging ditches, there's fear involved somewhere in there. And learning how to face that is key to being successful at doing whatever it is.
So your target market, is that people new to writing a book, or is it for existing people?
Oh, it's for anyone. I mean, in the group that we have now, it's still rather small, but really dynamic. And I'm in there with two books and one a bestseller. There's a lady in there with one book out, got the second one almost ready, and a third one blocked out. Novels. So there's fiction, there's nonfiction, there's children's. There's a girl writing a children's book. There's my coach Bobby Kuntz actually writing a book, a nonfiction book, and there's several different people at different stages. Some of them never written anything, right? So they're really starting from scratch, which is awesome because it's fun to teach that. It's like because you can help them not screw it up at the beginning. Like most of us did, when we were writing at the beginning. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just putting some words on a page. Turns out that's actually what you do.
Yes.
and it doesn't matter if they suck, right? It doesn't matter. Just get the words on the page. That's what I tell them. You can type all F-bombs for 20 minutes if that's what's coming out. And trust me, I've done it. I can spell that word really well. Practice. You just got to do it, and the inspiration comes to those who are sitting there doing the work. And this is not just about writing, by the way. It's not about true. Whatever. If you're not actually in the game, even just barely, then the inspiration is not going to just smack you in the head while you're sitting on the couch watching TV eating bonbons. It doesn't do it. It doesn't work that way. I don't think so. I've never seen it happen that way. No, you got to be in there. You got to get some stake in the game. Get in the game, do the work, sweat, bleed, cry, weep, whatever. And all of that's going to happen, right? I mean, even if you're writing, I've bled while writing. So, but you got to get in it, and you've got to face those fears. You've got to find ways of dealing with them. You can read my book, and I'll tell you exactly how to deal with them. Or you can join the mastermind group, and I'll do it there. No matter what you do in life, you're going to have to face those fears to be successful, and you can't really do it just sitting back dreaming about doing it.
It's not bestowed on you.
You got to really get in it. Yeah, that's what happens when you give in to the fears. And I've been there too, man. It's like I don't want to preach at people that are sitting there eating bonbons. I've eaten plenty of bonbons and ice cream and popcorn, and watched lots of shows and played video games, and avoided doing what it was I needed to do. I mean, most of us have been there at some point. It's like we're just overwhelmed and we don't know what to do. But luckily, there were people around me that actually believed that I could do something, and it didn't let me stay there, right? Kept prodding me or whatever, and eventually I got fed up with myself, right? It's like, okay, it's enough of this crap, right? Yeah, and that was really kind of where the first book came out of. It was desperation. It was like, we got to do something, right? So
Yes, exactly.
let's get in the game and see what happens. And lots of really
at the end
cool
of the
stuff
day,
happens.
At the end of the day, when you write a book, it's a legacy. I mean, it's there forever. I mean, your books
Right.
are now, it's something that lasts. I don't think there's anything else that really you can do except write a book that actually would last forever. I mean, books have been around for 500-600 years now, so
Exactly.
people still read books that were written a long time ago. So I think probably the best thing anybody can ever do is write a book. I mean, I've written 3-4 books now, and wish I'd written them a lot earlier than now.
Yeah, me too, brother. Yeah, I mean, I'll be turning 51 in next month, and it took me till I was 47, 48 to figure out what my life's mission and purpose was, and yeah, as sad as that might be, I did figure it out, right? It's like,
well, it's good to figure it out before you can't anymore.
Right? Yeah. I mean, if you're 95 and you figure it out and you die, that's really sad.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, at least you figured it out then, I suppose. And you're dying and never figuring it out. That's the saddest story ever.
That's the end of that.
Yeah, and I actually have a link at the end of the book to a life mission worksheet that I sent out to all my new subscribers on stevebivans.com, and to help kind of spark thought around, why am I here? What is it that I really want to do? What can I do to make the world a better place? And what I discovered was, it was writing for me, talking to people like you, and my neighbors and friends and whatever, and just in trying to, instead of, and be a hobbit, I say, focus on the shire you want, right? The thing you want, and not on the Mordor you don't, right? Forget, and it's tough. It's tough to forget about all this negative crap that goes on in the world. I mean, it's there. It's in our face all the time, but it's not really. It's not the news. The news is the 95+% of people that get up every day and go to work, right? I mean, and do something. Try to do something, or at least try to be a halfway decent human being. That's not newsworthy because it's boring, right? It's like, well, it's not sensational, right? But that's the news, right? And so if you're pulled by that negative stuff, forget about it, man. I mean, put it aside. Yeah, it's there. I got it.
Yep.
But then it's like, use it only as a signpost to what you do want, right? I don't want that. Got it. Okay. What's on the? If I turn around and face the other direction, what's over there, right? What do I want? And let's just build that, right? Let's make the world we want, and then the other will become obsolete. That's a real short paraphrasing of Gandhi, I think. But if you do that, then really cool stuff starts to happen. Trust me, it does. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it in other people's lives. If you stop, bitching and moaning about what you don't want to happen, and just
your brain
build the thing you want.
Anyway.
No, it doesn't. No, that's true. I learned it in Zen Golf, actually. Really good book. It only focuses on what comes after that word, right? So I don't want X. Well, you get X. You always get X. You get what you don't want. You also get what you do want if you focus on it enough, right? Exactly. So let's figure out what we do want. Stop talking about what we don't want. That's the best advice I give anybody, I think.
I think a lot of people spend a lot of time on what they don't want, as opposed to what they do want. So therefore, that ratio is always going to be the same. Then you're going to get a small amount of what you want and a lot of what you don't want.
Exactly. It's the absolute truth, man.
All right. Thanks, Steve, for coming on. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best method for that?
I would say probably my website is the easiest one to remember. It's just stevebivans.com. You can find me just about anywhere. If I'm on Facebook, you can also, and I hope you would, anyone who's interested in writing a book for whatever reason. There are lots of different reasons for writing books.
For sure.
They can find me at on Facebook at the College of Fearless Self-Publishing Mastermind. It's a group,
right.
So you can look for that. You can also find it on my website as far as that goes. My books are on Amazon exclusively. And in fact, the paperback, that would be awesome. Yes. Thank you guys for doing it ahead of time. The paperback will probably be out. Paperback version of The End of Fear itself probably be out by the time this goes live, whenever that is. It'll be out this week sometime, and so you can get an actual book if that's your deal. I like to have one on my shelf, but I love my Kindle. It's just awesome. That's where you can find me, and we'd love to see everybody. Anybody that wants to drop by and see what I'm up to. I got all kinds of crazy articles and stuff you want to read.
Based on your bio, yes, I must go and have a read there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Steve, for coming on, and maybe we'll get you on again soon when you do the next book.
Yeah, thank you, John. I would love to do that. I'm going to work on like 2 or 3 this year, I think. Short ones.
Cool.
not skull crushers, but maybe fingernail busters or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's what they said, apparently. Smaller books sell better anyway, apparently. So.
Yeah, they probably do. We'll find out. I'm going to put it to the test anyway. So I appreciate you having me on, man. It was fun.
You've just been listening to another great Evolvepreneur podcast interview. We hope you enjoyed it. Please visit evolvepreneur.biz today to find out more about our online community and how you can take part.